Greetings! I am Herbert Erpaderp, and this is Herbert Erpaderp's Quick Tips. Today, I'm going to quickly demonstrate the sponge chipping method I use on many of my tanks. This is of course not the only method for making your paint look chipped, but it's one of my favourites because it's quick, easy and effective, especially at smaller scales. If you've seen any of my tank painting videos, you'll probably have seen me apply it, but it might not always be clear every time. And because I don't want to waste time going into depth every time, I decided to make this video so I can refer to it later. The technique is quite simple and does not require any special equipment. You just need some paint in an appropriate colour and some foam. Like this, the spongy kind of foam, not something like extruded polystyrene foam. I've found model packaging to be the best source for this foam, particularly Flames of War blister packs and Malifaux kits. But even if you're not into those particular models, you should have no trouble locating a source for this stuff. You might have been throwing it out with the rest of the packaging, but now there's a reason to keep some of it. Enough jibber jabber, fool! The way I do this is I tear up the end of the foam so it's not flat and neat looking. I feel this makes for a more random and natural chipping effect. You can of course leave it flat. You might like the result you get from that. Experiment with it and see what works for you. As you might guess, the next step is to put paint on the sponge, whatever colour you think is appropriate. For this demonstration, I'm just using black. Obviously, this is way too much paint. The technique is not effective with this much paint, so, much like dry brushing, you want to remove almost all of the paint from the foam. Once that's done, we can apply the effect. I'm obviously just demonstrating on paper here. Dab the sponge onto the surface in an up and down motion. Do this as perfectly as you can. Dragging the foam across the surface will make a mess that you don't usually want. You can vary the size of the chipping very easily by adjusting the pressure with which you apply the paint. I think it looks fairly convincingly like chips in metal. You can of course use it for other interesting effects. Be creative with it. I find with tanks this effect works really well on sharp edges. This is again only paper, but I think it works pretty well as a demonstration. I lightly dabbed at the edge with the sponge, and with a tiny bit of imagination, this could be something metal and painted white that's been roughed up along the edge. Here is what I mean when I say dragging the foam along the surface will make a mess. The first example looks okay, but then the second one doesn't really look like chipping. That's not to say there are no applications for this. It could be used to create scrape marks down the side of a vehicle. Though in my opinion, at smaller scales it looks messy and would be better done with a fine brush. So that's a quick look at how I like to apply chipping to vehicles. It's not perfect, but it's a quick, easy and pretty commonly used technique, and I think it works really well. If you look really closely, you can of course see that the chipping is in fact on top of the base coat, but most people aren't going to be looking that closely anyway. If you have any other techniques, tools, products or experiments you would like to see me demonstrate or attempt, let me know in the comments section below, along with any other questions, comments or suggestions you might have. If you really like the videos I make and subscribing just isn't enough, please consider helping to support the channel via Patreon. Patrons get to see my videos a little early, in addition to some extra patron-only content. Check the link in the description or click the Patreon logo on screen now. As always, I shall return soon, so until then, happy modelling and thanks for watching. Farewell.